One of my absolute favorite things about the Mario franchise is how it's a world that's full of strange and wacky things, which I've loved finding and studying across each and every one of its entries. In today's video, I specifically want to look at the weirdest characters in every Mario game, really going through every single one with the mustachioed man's name on it. That means this time, I'll include the Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi titles, showing you a few of the best ones that I know you'll find entertaining. Oh yeah, and before I get started, my name is Copycat, and if you haven't yet, then please subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell button to stay notified when I upload new videos. Of course, the very first game we're going to look at in this video is Mario's home console debut in Super Mario Bros. For the NES, where there's only one weird character from this entry I want to mention, which are the Mushroom People, aka the Toads. When this game first came out and players stumbled across these strange creatures, it must have been a bit of a startling sight, as these small in stature people seem to have mushrooms growing right from their noggins. Even weirder is that apparently in this first game, Koopa changed them into bricks and plants, which means that every time you break one of those bricks, you're pretty much murdering a toad, which is just awful to think about. The second game in the franchise, at least from a North American perspective, is Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES, which, believe it or not, is actually a reskin of a game called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic. This change from its true Japanese sequel is all due to it being deemed too similar, on top of being too difficult for Western audiences, and instead, they realized that the mechanics of Yumi Kojo worked well in the Mario universe. Because of its vast differences when compared to other entries in the franchise, one group of characters that immediately stick out as weird are the Subcons, which are peaceful fairy-like creatures that reside and protect the dream world that's also oddly called Subcon. Apparently this is a reference to Mario's subconscious, aka his dream state, where these people are imprisoned by the antagonist Wart, where Mario must fall asleep and release them from their prison. This game really is an outlier in the series and is extremely weird. I mean, for obvious reasons, as it's not even really a Mario title. The next game we're going to look at is the third Mario installment on the NES, where by far the weirdest characters from that game are the Kings, that are supposed to be the rulers of each of the lands of Mushroom World. Already strange enough as they're humanoid characters that never show up again in the franchise, but they're also magic users that get their wands stolen by the Koopalings and are transformed into different creatures. This is definitely a weird sight to stumble upon when you first play this game, but they do transform back once you return their wands, so everything's all good in the end. Up next, I want to look at the true Japanese sequel to the original NES title, which I mentioned earlier was changed for Western audiences as it was too similar and too difficult, only being released years later as part of the Super Mario All-Stars collection. Called The Lost Levels, the character I'm picking from it as the weirdest is Mario's brother himself, Luigi, as it's technically the first time where you can use him as a main character, and also the first time where he has less traction and a better jumping ability than his brother. This is definitely an out-of-place feeling when you first are able to use this character, as everyone gets so used to how Mario feels in his world and environment that using Luigi by default is just weird. Up next is Super Mario World for the SNES, where the weirdest character we're going to look at is the Dolphin, but not because of its in-game function, but because of its extremely strange design. This Dolphin Buddy is very important to your gameplay, as it allows you to platform on top of them, so you can traverse through levels much easier, and reach higher up areas to gain different power-ups and secrets. For some reason, however, this creature is equipped with a set of goggles, which in terms of an aquatic animal doesn't make much sense. I mean, the goggles can't be for underwater use, can they? Which means they're probably for seeing outside of the water? I'm just confused. The first of the Mario role-playing games we're going to look at that really kicked off that entire genre with the mustachioed man's name attached is Super Mario RPG for the SNES, which introduced a few strange out-of-place characters that became staples of your party, fighting alongside you for pretty much the entire entry. The first of these is Mallow, who believes he is a tadpole as he was raised in a pond by Frog Fuchsius. Great name, by the way. but it is later revealed that he was orphaned by his real parents from Nimbus Land, making him some sort of cloud entity. Even though a sentient cloud is a bit strange, it's really not an out-of-place sight in a land like Mushroom Kingdom if you think about it. Geno, on the other hand, is very strange, as he's an agent from Star Road who's been sent to retrieve the 7 stars. Although his true form is as a star, he for some reason takes the form of a living wooden doll, adorned with magical powers that helps you along your fight. At the end of the game, Geno finally reveals his real name, which is Heart, music note, exclamation mark, and question mark. Whatever that even means. The last Mario entry on the SNES we're gonna look at is the sequel to Super Mario World, this time visiting Yoshi's Island, where without a doubt the weirdest from this game is the Poochie dog, that appears as a helpful character in a few of its levels. Oddly, Poochie is impervious to pretty much every dangerous terrain that would hurt Yoshi, including spikes and lava, which allows you to ride on his back to traverse through those dangerous parts of those stages. I won't lie, this doesn't make much sense, as he's still just a dog made of flesh and bone, so why he's basically indestructible is still a mystery to this day. For anyone who's played the amazing Super Mario 64 entry on the N64, then you'll already know that the weirdest characters from this game have to be the Lakitu Bros, which are a pair of cloud-riding turtles that are there to document Mario's quest to rescue the princess. These bros are with you throughout the entire game, acting as your camera, plus as your sort of guide that explains how your camera controls work. These bros really don't serve any other purpose, and the only time you can see them is through the mirrors in the room that usually leads to the entrance of Snowman's Land. Next up, we're going to look at the spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG, which greatly changes up the art style and gameplay in Paper Mario, which honestly has a huge cast of weird characters, but one in particular I really want to showcase is Professor Colorado Jones. You first come across this Koopa who's a knockoff of Indiana Jones in Dry Dry Desert, where he's actually one of the dumbest characters in the entire game, constantly putting himself in situations where Mario, or his supporting cast, have to save his life. To be honest, this game was so out of place when compared to every other game in the series, and I love how it adds some wacky characters that are usually enemies and you thought you would never have any interaction with ever. Next up is Super Mario Sunshine for the GameCube, which does have a very weird feel to it already, as it takes place on Delfino Isle and not Mushroom Kingdom. It's also home to one of the weirdest characters in the entire Mario franchise in Il Piantissimo, who is a human that for some reason disguises himself as a Pianta and challenges you to races throughout the different areas of the game. What's even weirder is that when a player hacked the game and removed his disguise, it's revealed that he's the postman from the Legend of Zelda series, which doesn't really make any sense as I don't think the timelines match up, or the worlds match up, but I guess who knows. Remember when I said that Paper Mario was the spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG? Well then Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga might as well be the true sequel, as it follows extremely similar gameplay patterns with a bit of a different combat system. Now if you've played this game, it's pretty obvious that the weirdest characters from it are the Beanish residents of Bean Bean Kingdom, including their incredibly plump Queen Bean and her heroic son Prince Peasley. This strange species quite obviously resembles beans, and have huge mouths, which adds to their character as they're prone to laughing at pretty much everything. Strange characters like these that seem to have no place in the Mario franchise are common themes in these RPG entries for some reason. And as you'll see later in this video, we haven't even seen the weirdest yet. Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door is the next game we're gonna look at, where one of Mario's partners, Madame Flurry, is the weirdest here for a multitude of reasons. Probably the main one, and most obvious, is her character design, which is a bit inappropriate for a children's game, as she's presented as a full-figured woman, where they did not try to shy away from drawing her curves, as you can see. On top of that, mini fans absolutely hate her diva personality, as she makes you complete a series of tasks for her, only paying you back with a kiss. That's just awkward. I know we've already talked about Super Mario 64 in this video, but I also wanted to mention the DS entry, as it contains one character I never thought would be playable in Wario. This is one of the biggest changes from the N64 entry, where you can now play as several other Mario pals. But Wario is definitely the most out of place, as honestly up to that point, he's usually one of his main antagonists. Wario is very slow and can barely jump at all, but is the heaviest and strongest in the game, being able to destroy things that no other character can. In the future, I really hope that Nintendo shows more love to Wario, as he's been pretty absent in many of the more recent Mario platforming games, which is just a shame. The second Mario and Luigi game we're going to look at in this video is the Partners in Time entry, where I have to pick Professor EGAD as the weirdest character, as he's quite an enigma in the franchise. Originally appearing in Luigi's Mansion, EGAD appears in Partners in Time, but as his younger, much less experienced self, studying thwomps in his lab on Thwomp Volcano. One of the funniest but weirdest moments comes when the professor sees baby Mario douse the giant thwomp with water, where his memories of present day suddenly come rushing back to him, and he has the idea to create the Hydro Gush 4000. Now, if you haven't guessed, or if you don't notice, this is essentially his flood invention from Super Mario Sunshine, but a bit modified. The only weird character, well, sort of, from the new Super Mario Bros. DS entry I could find are the Phantom Hands, that show up only in the World 7 Ghost House. These floating, disembodied gloves seem very intimidating at first, but are actually there to help you, as their only purpose is to point out where the invisible blocks and secrets are located in each room. These are not enemies, they can't be defeated, and they're just weird. Another strange species of characters that show up in a Mario RPG are the Pixels, that replace normal partners in the Wii Super Paper Mario title. This game is very unique when compared to every other in the series before and after it, as it has no turn-based combat elements, instead acting more as a traditional platformer combined with RPG features. These fairy-like beings help the game's main characters power up with some sort of special ability, which helps them platform or in battle. To be honest, they don't feel incredibly out of place, they just changed the game in such a strange way that it felt so different. In Super Mario Galaxy, I'd have to say that the weirdest characters in this game are the Hungry Lumas, that love to eat your star bits in exchange for transforming into a new galaxy. Now, when I say these Lumas love eating, I really do mean it, where they almost salivate at the thought of you feeding them, and grow incredibly larger the more they eat. Another character I want to mention is the Spooky Speedster, who is a racing fanatic boo that challenges you many times to see who's the fastest. It's definitely a bit freaky to see a boo being so friendly, as they usually want to scare you or harm you. Up next is another Mario RPG, and with that, another weird species that's introduced. This time, the Brock characters, that are a sentient species of blocks found initially in Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story. In this particular game, the two that are featured have heavy French accents, really playing on pretty lowbrow French stereotypes, which I guess is more of a strange decision by the developers than anything else. Just take a look. My choice for the weirdest characters in New Super Mario Bros. Wii are the added blue and yellow toads, where their inclusion seems a bit underwhelming, compared to several other characters that could have deservedly taken that spot. I do get that Yoshi is already part of the game, and Princess Peach is obviously captured for the millionth time, but Wario, Waluigi, Rosalina, and Daisy were all definitely free, and up for the adventure, so it's a bit of a letdown that they weren't thought about. I guess things were sort of rectified in Super Mario 3D World, but I always felt like the Toad thing was a bit of a cop-out and somewhat lazy. One character that I could have included in the first Super Mario Galaxy, but are actually weirder in the second installment, are the Gyrmos, that are robot maids which provide maintenance to the planets they're placed on. Gyrmos are obsessive compulsive, and their entire existence revolves around cleanliness, which leaves them in a state of constant irritation, ending more often than not with them getting mad at you. This is usually because you fail one of their minigames, or leave trash on their planet, where they will definitely give you a piece of their mind. However, the most hilarious thing happens if you intentionally complete any of the purple coin challenges with 0 coins collected, which will cause the Gyrmo to brutally diss you. Just take a look. In all honesty, I had a tough time figuring out what to put as the weirdest character in Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS. But in the end, I settled on the out-of-place Tanuki Toads that appear in the game's end credits. This is the only time they appear in the game, and definitely seem like they shouldn't belong. But at least they are cute. Okay, there really wasn't any weird character in this game, I must admit, as it was pretty vanilla and didn't stray outside of the box in terms of content. I guess I have to say that the weirdest characters in the new Super Mario Bros. 2 entry are the Koopalings. As in this game, they travel all in the same clown car, which I guess is a bit of a meta joke, as it is a clown car where, you know, a lot of clowns usually fit in a small car and it looks kind of weird. You get it. Now, these are technically the antagonists of the game, but in an entry that's pretty much the most normal in the franchise, any little bit of weirdness sticks out and I need to mention it. In Paper Mario Sticker Star, there isn't a new species of character to look at, but instead some really strange toads that appear in this game. There's the troublesome toad that always finds itself in danger, the crybaby toad that's always found bawling its eyes out, the shady toad who sells previously collected things, if you know what I mean, the swindler toad who tries to resell you stickers at a higher price, the oasis toad that's just chilling out like he's on vacation, and the four-bear toad, who appears in sepia tone, I guess indicating that he's from the olden school days. I don't really know. After this entry, the toads begin to get weirder and weirder, which quickly has become one of my favorite parts of the Paper Mario series. Next up, we're going to look at the new Super Mario Bros. Entry for the Wii U, where I always felt like the weirdest character were the Miis, that you're able to play as in the game's Coin Battle, Boost Rush, and Challenge modes. These Miis function the exact same as every other playable character in this game, and were initially intended to be added to the story mode, but I think Nintendo might have thought their inclusion probably cheapened the gameplay, which just like the blue and yellow toads, I definitely agree with. Next, we're gonna look at Mario and Luigi Dream Team, which introduces a brand new character species called the Pilos, which are used mainly to transport you into the dream world. Although in their normal form, they just look like plump toads without the mushroom hat, they actually transform into literal pillows, so that Luigi can enter the dream state and become Dreamy Luigi. These Mario and Luigi games are incredibly weird, but at least in a good way, as I always appreciate when developers try something new, rather than just stick to the same old formula. I'll always remember when I first played Super Mario 3D World and stumbled across the unique Captain Toad levels, as they were a welcome change that I never even knew I needed. Captain Toad is not new to the Mario universe, first appearing with his brigade in Super Mario Galaxy, but in this entry, it's the very first time you can actually control him as a playable character, where he resides throughout puzzle-based stages specifically designed for him as he can't jump. Even though this weird experiment definitely could have failed, it ended up working very well as a break from the regular gameplay, and to my surprise, eventually led to his own game for the Wii U that also was remade for both the 3DS and Nintendo Switch. If you guys haven't played that entry, it's definitely an underrated game, so go check it out. The only character I want to mention as a bit weird from both Super Mario Maker 1 and 2 is the Undo Dog, which, believe it or not, actually made his debut in Mario Paint that came out for the SNES in 1992. Just like in that classic game, the Undo Dog lets you undo the last action that you just took, reverting everything to the previous edit whenever his icon is tapped on. In the second Maker entry, this dog has a much larger role in the story mode, giving Mario various jobs so that he can rebuild the ruined Peach's castle. One of the funniest things about this particular character is the way that he interacts with Mario, at times treating the mustachioed man as if he were the pet and not the other way around. I'm not sure where this attitude comes from, but it might be a bit of commentary on how Mario's willing to do pretty much anything without question, which is kind of strange if you think about it. One of the weirdest games that you're going to see in this video is Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, where this entry combines the regular characters you'd see in this type of game with Paper Mario characters, creating a different feeling experience that somehow works. This unfortunately would be the last game in the Mario & Luigi series, as the developer Alpha Dream would go bankrupt, trying to create remastered versions of their older titles, which unfortunately failed, and currently the series is in complete limbo. Earlier I talked about some very strange toads that showed up in Paper Mario Sticker Star. However, in Paper Mario Color Splash, some of them are even weirder, to the point where the developers really pushed the boundaries of these characters' normalcies. There's a Toad Rescue Squad, which includes a really stylish looking chief, the group of pirate toads that reside in the Violet Passage, Action Toad, who's always ready to put up a fight, and Rock, Paper, Wizard Toad, who apparently is a master at Rochambeau, aka Rock, Paper, Scissors. This last toad is probably my favorite of the entire Mario franchise, really adding another depth to these usually plain characters. I think it's pretty safe to say that the weirdest character from Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch is Cappy, as he completely changes the regular formula of the gameplay in a significant way. That's because if Cappy is thrown at an enemy, they can be captured, and Mario will actually become them, helping you solve puzzles and collect moons throughout the different kingdoms. What you can become ranges from the normal run-of-the-mill Mario enemies, to inanimate objects, to a freaking T-Rex, which are all awesome in some weird sort of way. The second last game we're going to look at in this video is Paper Mario and the Origami King, where I'd have to go with the faceless toads as the weirdest characters that are found in the Temple of the Shrooms. Why these toads look this way all has to do with the evil Hole Punch boss removing their faces in order to keep them held captive. As Mario, you have to rescue all 40 of these faceless weirdos, who only revert back to their normal form when the Hole Punch is defeated. The final game we're going to look at in this video is the Bowser's Fury game mode that was shipped alongside Super Mario 3D World for the Nintendo Switch, where I'd have to say that the weirdest character from that entry is Bowser Jr. Usually appearing as an antagonist of the series, in this one he's actually a good guy, who's trying to save his father from his Fury form, attacking enemies and collecting power-ups to help you. The best part of all this is that if you collect 100 cat shines, then Bowser Jr. will transform into a cat form, along with his clown car, gaining whiskers, which is just an interesting sight to see. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what you thought about it, and of course subscribe to my channel. Also, please follow my Instagram at Copycat Gamer. There I upload some cool clips and items from my collection that you won't see anywhere else. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!